Welcome to Val's Sweet Kitchen. Blind baking a pie shell is pretty straightforward, and I've got some tips so your pie shell doesn't turn out like this. So, preheat your oven to 375 and let's go have some fun. We'll start with 3 cups of flour, leveled. And I use a food processor with the blade. Don't use the plastic one. That could make you overbeat it and your crust won't come out as crispy and flaky. 2 tablespoons of sugar. If you're going to make a quiche, leave out the sugar. And then you want to add just about a half a teaspoon of regular salt because the kosher salt is big and might not break down when you make your pie crust. At least that's my experience. And then take 3/4 of a cup of butter and I cube them up so that way the flour is going to coat them and helps to make a flakier crust. You want to take this straight out of the refrigerator because the key to a flaky pie crust is everything is chilled. Want everything super cold. My recipe here is for a 2-crust pie. I found it's easier just to make the 2-crust recipe and just take a small chunk and not use it. Or, like my grandma used to do, she would take the leftover pie crust, sprinkle some sugar and cinnamon on top, and toast it on a cookie sheet in the oven. I can still remember her whole house would fill up with this nice, comforting fragrance. You know, I think I just discovered why my grandma always had cinnamon sugar pie crust scraps. Just a small whiz to have the flour coat the butter, because we're going for flakiness. And then take 1/3 of a cup of shortening. We're going to give it a whiz till it's about the consistency of breadcrumbs. There you go. That's what you're looking for. Breadcrumbs. You want some big chunks of butter. We don't want it small like Parmesan cheese on your spaghetti. We want the big chunks of butter. And then while your food processor is running, take 1/2 cup of super cold water. You want to stop your processor just as it's coming together. Don't over mix it. So if your kitchen is excessively warm, you definitely want to chill your pie crust up. That'll help all the fats re-solidify and a flakier crust. So we're going to roll this out. And you want to go to about 1/8 of an inch thick if you're going to blind bake it, and give it a 1/4 turn every so often. That'll help you keep it round and even. And if it starts to crack on the outside, just use your fingers to warm the edges and it'll come right together. Now mine's a 9-inch pan, but I'm going to take it all the way out to the 10-inch line. I would rather have too much dough than not enough, and that's how come I make the full recipe. And you want a good overhang. Now, don't push in the middle. Just gently let it slide down in the sides. You want it to come all the way into the corners of its own weight. That way the corners aren't going to stretch out. And if you're blind baking this all the way through, you want 1-inch overhang. Now, you don't want to tuck it all the way down to there. You just want to take it and tuck it so it stays over the top, like that. You want it to hang over top and kind of curl around a little bit. And then crimp it as you like. making sure you keep that little overhang edge. It's going to help it grip the top and keep it from falling down into the dish. See, just hangs over just a little. What you're doing is you're creating like little grips, so it just hangs on the edges of the pan. It won't shrink all in. There we go, perfect. And then you want to take a fork and poke holes in the bottom. This is going to allow the steam to come up through the holes and keep your bottom flat. And I use 2 sheets so I cover the crust, because I'm going to bake this crust through and through, and this is going to help prevent excess browning on the top crimped edges. And baking beans are great heat conductors. And then bake for 15 minutes. And then remove the beans and bake for 15 minutes longer, or until the crust turns a nice golden brown. If the bottom still puffs up a little bit, go ahead and just poke it with the fork. And there it is, clinging on to the edges. Make sure you let your pie shell cool all the way down before you put your filling in it. Otherwise, it's just going to suck up the filling moisture and give you a soggy bottom. Don't want any of that, not on my show. Anyway, I'm getting ready to make my eggnog pie recipe next, so stick around. And if you had fun today, give it a like, thumbs up, and boop that bell. See you in the eggnog pie.